Hey y'all, what's up? It's Gene, minus my Mohab hat, because I've discovered when I talk down on the computer, y'all can't see my face and I look all shifty or something. So anyways, this is Rucksack Revolution podcast. And this evening, actually, well, I don't know when y'all will see it, but it's evening here. I am speaking with Dr. Adrienne Christian, who is an amazing poet. And I want to throw a apology, I guess, out to Michael Thomas, because I didn't call him doctor yesterday. Because I get on Facebook, I know a lot of academics on Facebook, and they don't say doctor on the name, and so I just said Michael Thomas, and I got thinking about it later. Like, oh, that was wrong. So I want to Michael will see this. I want to apologize for that. There's only a few people. I always Dr. Stephen Ray, who was a very important professor of mine, and of course Dr. James Cone. Their first name is Doctor. That's just how it goes.
I just got my PhD, so it sounds a little bit weird to hear people say it. I only just got it in May.
Oh, you need it then. You need to hear it.
Yeah. So, that's funny that you say that, because usually it makes me feel a little, I don't know, I'm humble. So usually I keep it off, but.
I had a Hebrew professor at Union who was finishing up her PhD. I had second semester Hebrew with her. And I cannot think of her name now for the life of me. And I feel bad because she died just a few years ago. And I can't think of her name right this second. But she got her PhD finished during the summer before that fall semester. And she was talking about how she came from a very humble background in Louisiana. And her mom still lived back home. And definitely she grew up poor. And she was talking about how she was with her mom that summer. And told her mom, because her mom was so proud of her, have a PhD in the family. And she told her mom that she had to call her like doctor the whole time she was there. And her mom's like, I do it. I'm sorry, that wasn't the name I gave you. But she did it some. And I tried that on my dad when I thought I might get a PhD. I was like, Dad, you're gonna have to call me doctor for like 6 months. Because I ain't calling you nothing, man. You just when I call you, you show up.
That's but what I found, Gene, is that it makes some people feel like maybe they don't have anything to converse with me about. Like I met a friend of mine. She's a friend now, but when I met her at a party and we got to talking about what I did and everything, we planned to have lunch. And we met for lunch, and later she told me that she did some reading and things like that so that she could make sure that she had something to talk to me about. And I was like, I am not that kind of doctor. No, we can talk about anything. We can talk about anything. It doesn't have to be something from academia, so.
One of the wisest things I ever heard in college was from, Dr. Larry Marvin. He was history. I was a history and religion major in college, and did a dual. And he was one of my main history professors. Basically, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for about 2 years, we went from ancient Greece to the Enlightenment or something. And I always made a B in his class. And he'd always you were this close to an A. It was like white men can't jump. You were this close, And so when I had my letters written for grad school, I did not ask him to write a letter. And he comes up to me and he says, "Hey, how come you didn't ask me?" I said, "Dude, you never gave me an A." He says, "No." He says, "Grad schools love a letter from a guy like me because I'm the guy that's going to write, his first class, it was a B minus. His second class was a B. His third class was a B plus. He's a masochist. He's good at taking punishment. He keeps coming back. It's like Rocky. He keeps coming out of the ring, even though he's bloody and everything." I was like, okay, whatever, Dr. Marvin. But one day his dissertation had been in the Fourth Crusade, the sacking of Constantinople, 1204. And he had gone to the big history conference of the year thing. And he comes back and he's telling us about it. And he said, when you're basically we have this group that meets about the Fourth Crusade, and this is our little, group, and there's 5, 6 of us in it. And so it's really great to be there because we all get to just geek out on our favorite thing. He says, but I will tell you this. He says, one thing you will learn in life, he said, I just want to tell you this. He says, if a person cannot say what they need to say in 2 minutes or less, and they have to use any words over 4 syllables, don't listen to them. They don't know what they're talking about. So I said to him, I go, well, Dr. Marvin, your thing is the Fourth Crusade, and that was the sacking of Constantinople. I go, Constantinople. That's 5 syllables. How do you do it? And he looks at me and he goes, Istanbul. Let's have class. And I'm just like, yo. I will never forget that. It's like, Constantinople, Istanbul. I was like, well, there you go. All right, But I want to tell y'all about Adrienne here. And let me log. I actually am reading off my phone. I did not want to miss anything here. So I'm not going to read this exactly verbatim and sound boring, but it just says here, this is off Adrienne's website, which is, was it AdrienneChristian.com.
Yeah.
Dr. Adrienne Christian is a poet and writer and fine art photographer. She is the author of 3 poetry collections, actually 4 now, right? Because I saw when I looked at there were 4 books on your other page.
Three I wrote, 1 I edited.
Oh,
and that
okay.
one is not, that one's not just poetry. It's poetry, fiction, and nonfiction.
Oh, okay. So we have Woven, which is is that one? I guess it says 2021. Is that so? It's it's in the process.
Out.
Okay.
Yes.
April a Proper 1st. Lover in 2017 and 12023 Woodmont Avenue 2000.
Yeah.
By any chance, what is that address? Is that
so it was my girlhood address. So that book is
a
poetic memoir. Yeah, it's a poetic memoir about my life growing up in Detroit. And the image on that cover actually is from a famous house in Detroit, from a famous artist. So yeah, that's why I chose that cover for it. You're right to think that it was my address.
Who is the artist?
His name is, I don't want to mess it up. I don't want to say because I might make a mistake. So his name's not here, but it's called Party Animal Archives, and it's from the Heidelberg Project. Okay, can you see? Here's the image.
Yeah. Bring it down a little. It's kind of shiny. There we go. Right there we go. That'll work.
Okay. So what he would do is decorate houses with different kinds of artifacts, like here are stuffed animals, bicycle tires, and things like that. And so this is really a metaphor of how my life was growing up in Detroit, which was crazy.
Wow. I think I would have liked that guy. I would have definitely liked that guy. He sounds like an eccentric, just a little bit in a good way.
Totally.
Eccentric to me is a compliment. So please.
Me too.
Yes.
Me too.
Little eccentricity.
But unfortunately, this house was burned down to arson. So there was a lot of controversy. I remember being a girl and driving with my mom and seeing, his houses and thinking like, oh my gosh, that's just the weirdest thing. And I loved it. But arson.
Was it? I know historically, I don't know if this still goes on, but wasn't it in Detroit? It was a big deal to arson on Halloween night or Halloween weekend.
So the day before. Yes. So how do you know that? You've just read a lot about it. Are you from the Midwest?
I'm kind of a trivia geek, and I also what's a few things. I grew up in a household where the TV generally wasn't on during dinner, but if it was on the news. Walter Cronkite, whoever. Back before CNN, it'd be what was it? 6 o'clock was local news. 6:30 was national.
Right.
And my dad was one of those people that we discussed current events or things like that. He would say, well, let's watch the news. Well, what do you think? I remember the Watergate hearings when I was like 10 years old. I'm going to drop one on you. That's back when Mayor Coleman was mayor of Detroit.
Okay. I remember him. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he was mayor a long time, wasn't he?
Coleman Young. Yes, for a very long time. Yeah.
And that was when Detroit, I think, went bankrupt, and they were getting a bunch of guff from everybody everywhere. And basically what I remember about Mayor Coleman was he had no problem telling the powers that be to go to hell.
That's what he was known for.
Yes, he was. He did not care. Like he'd just spit in the president's face, man. You know what I mean? Like, he did not care. And I was just like, all right, all right then, But I just want to tell y'all, Adrienne here, she's won a lot of awards. I'm not even going to keep reading all that. I just want to tell you that this is writing assessment specialist at the University of Texas Austin. So basically, we had the writing lab at Berry, which is much smaller. We could probably fit if like the University of Texas was the sun,
Mm-hmm.
Berry College was a planet, it would be like how many Earths could you fit in the sun? I mean, Berry's a tiny 2,000 students in Texas. Austin is one of the biggest universities in the United States, isn't it?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
One of
Yeah,
the
I
top
just
five?
started there. Right. And so I don't have that many students. I only have about 40, 44. Yes, but it is a very big school, and because of COVID, of course, I teach online.
Uh-huh.
So writing assessment specialist essentially is just so I'm still teaching, but I'm not a professor. Essentially,
Oh.
is what, yeah. So
Oh.
so it's kind of like a fancy title that they give us people who are not full professors, and yeah. And so the thing about well, I don't want to give too long of an answer, but I love professors. I might be one of these days, but right now I am focused on more on my writing. And so, being a full professor is a large responsibility. You have to serve on committees. You have to, we have what we're met to death. So you have a lot of meetings, yeah, a lot of letters of recommendation. And so what I love about being a writing assessment specialist is that it's teaching light. So when I'm done, and I don't have to bring work home.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and it only takes about 20 hours out of my week. And then the rest is all mine. Yeah. So
Nice.
my main job is writer.
I'm gonna tell y'all a couple. I just going to just so you know. Let's see, Cal 6, Phoebe, Prairie Schooner review. Prairie Schooner that's a big deal to get in Prairie Schooner. That's a major writing journal. Los Angeles Review, Hayden's Ferry Review. Prairie Schooner jumped out at me when I read your bio. I familiar with it, and then there's a number of awards here, but one I want to mention is the Rita Dove International Poetry Award, which if you don't know who Rita Dove writing, you need to find out. I'm gonna give you a list of a few people I know of, and Rita Dove is one of them. I think my introduction to Black female poets was either Gwendolyn Brooks or Rita Dove. I discovered them about the same time, and then about a year later, this would have been 2005, maybe 2004. In community college, I was the president of my Phi Theta Kappa chapter and got to go with an honors topic. It's a once a year thing in the summer, about a week. And they bring in a lot of well-known speakers and whatever, and you get to hobnob. But Intishaki Shange was the kind of the artist that they brought in. And I didn't get the opportunity to meet her, but what I remember was it was in an auditorium. She gave an amazing reading. And then the people running the thing, the word got around, they were actually upset because they said she was drunk. And I was like, no, she wasn't. I said, these people were so stick up the butt, basically, that what they did not see that I recognized immediately is she was like reading in character, if you know what I mean. Like when you spoken word, there's what I call the school of reading, which is I'm going to read my lines like this, like I'm reading off the page, and and then there's the more like spoken word on stage. It's a little more dramatic.
Of course,
dramatic and theatrical sound like you're putting on airs, but you know what I'm saying. It's a little more
exactly.
You're projecting your image with yourself as much as with the word. And I got to learn more about her when I went to Union, and I was just, to this day, I want to go back to some of the people that organized that colloquium, whatever, and just say, like, okay, first off, you don't know what you're talking about. Secondly, you're obnoxious. And thirdly, we did have some really bad speakers, but I noticed they were like all white guys and they wore ties. So what's up with that? I was really, I think she was disrespected by the
I was just going to say, not only is it a terrible thing to think about someone, but it's certainly a more terrible thing to say and spread. That's awful.
Yeah, it kind of, I mean, I wasn't with management on that, but yeah, it kind of filtered out amongst the participants. The one person I did ask a question of that was Stuart Varney. And at the time, Stuart Varney was the head business editor for CNN. He has moved to Fox News and he's been there forever. He might still be there. And he was talking about something. It was the first thing in the morning. I used to be known for asking really weird questions. and I noticed that his shoes were very shiny.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I was asked, people are trying to, it's junior college, right? So people are trying to come up with these obnoxiously intelligent questions to try to impress everybody about what they know. I raised my hand. He says, yes. I said, hi, I'm Gene Anderson from Central Florida Community College. And I just want to note that I was in the Army and I used to spit shine, and your shoes, they got a really good shine on them. I'm just curious, do you shine your own shoes or what? And because my dad always said you should shine your own shoes. And so what's your opinion on that? And like, you can see people are going, oh God, shut up. And he actually, he was kind of taken aback by it. And then he said, your father is a very wise man. No, actually I didn't. I got him done in JFK coming here this morning from Europe. Next question. And my two main memories of honors topic that year was Intashaki Sean Gay getting disrespected, and Stuart Varney does not shine his own shoes. And every time, I don't watch Fox News as a rule, but when I came on there, I would always think, how's that guy don't shine his shoes, man? But yeah, y'all, I got a very special person on the show tonight, no question about it.
Thank you.
And you had emailed me, we've emailed back and forth some, and you asked about, what to talk about, whatever. What I generally say to people is, it's your show. So what I did come to my mind, I was really thinking about it today on my way to the gym this afternoon. And the three things that popped in my mind, maybe four, was the first thing that actually popped in my mind. Weren't you going to go to Antarctica?
I was going to go to Antarctica.
But you ended up going to Big Bend National Park. I saw the pictures. Hey, that's a cool picture in your tent, by the way.
So almost. So I was going to go to Antarctica. It's my, I really love to travel. That's what I want to do with my life. I visited all 50 states. And I want to do all 196 countries. I'm at 50 so far. Wow. And of course, all 7 continents. Antarctica would have been my 7th. So I would have been going for Christmas.
So you've been to the other continents, all of them.
Yes. But not Antarctica, which is, of course, the big one. And it was canceled because of COVID. So I am just still totally heartbroken and crestfallen and just like totally sad about that. I
have met one other writer. Well, I didn't meet him personally. I was front row when he was on stage. Did you know Henry Rollins, who was in the band? Like he has been to Antarctica. And he did one of his speaking tours a few years ago. He was in Gainesville, and I went with some friends, and we were right up front. And he talked about a lot of things, but one of the things he got into was about going to Antarctica. And he was talking about something. He got to sleep out one night. He was like in a hole or something, and he was looking up at the stars. And the penguins were, I don't know if they were in mating season or something. There was a zillion penguins around, and they were all talking. And he said it was one of those moments in his life where he was like, well, yeah, I've done a lot of things. I did not ever think I would be like laying in a hole in the ground at the South Pole, listening to penguins chatter, watching the stars. And his whole gist of it was trying to tell us, don't limit your experiences. Don't think you can at all. Don't put yourself in, get out of the wagon ruts.
Sure.
Go to Antarctica. And I would love to go there. Were you going to, were you just going to go to like one of the, along, I guess, the shelf, the edge, or were you going to like maybe go all the way to the South Pole?
Just like the shelf, the edge, like through the Drake Passage, and then like on that edge. Yes, there's a really great company called Quark Expeditions. They are really good. Everybody that I know who's been with them has something really wonderful to say about them. And so that was a company that I was going to go with. Yeah. So like I said, that was going to be in December. But what happened in September this month is it was my birthday on the 19th.
Right.
And I was supposed to go to Brazil, but because that couldn't happen also because of COVID, I just went to Big Bend and I photographed the Milky Way was there. So
that was a great. I saw those photos, and
thank you.
Especially that second one. I guess you had your. I don't know anything about cameras. I have a friend who does. I don't. But you have the aperture wide open, and you have the timer running. You can tell I'm really a pro.
That's no, but that's
exactly the light to come in. That was
yes. You just need a longer exposure to get more.
I'll post those photos up on the blog because I was an astronomy nut. I still am, but. When I was a kid, I wanted to be an astronaut, and I didn't do my math homework. The reason I'm not an astronaut is because in 5th grade, I had a homework assignment in long division. I still remember this. And it was a whole page of long division problems. There must have been, oh man, it was probably 100. I think it was 144 on the page. I think it was 12 rows and 12 overs. It was a lot. And I wouldn't do it. And then finally, my teacher, Miss Cobb, gets a hold of my dad and says, your son is not doing his math homework. So it was a weekend, and I guess I had stuff I wanted to do. I was 10 years old, but he stuck me in my room. We had the homework war where you're going to sit in your room and you ain't coming out until you get that page done. And I would end up reading a book or doing something. And so all day, the whole weekend, we had a war over long division. And I never did do that assignment. And I think probably, I probably never flew the space shuttle because of that page of long division, to be honest. I thought as long as you could handle the G's and whatever, they just shot you up there, you know, and I didn't know. I had to do
photography happened to me quite by accident. I was only interested in having a hobby. And I took a class when I lived in Arizona at the time. I took a nature photography class, and my teacher had a student exhibit our work. And the first, like one of the very first pictures that I took, I put in this exhibit, and it sold. And that completely shocked me. And my teacher said, he said, have you done this before? And I said, no, never. And he said, why are you so good? And I'm like, well, first of all, thank you. But, I'm not sure. He said, what do you do for a living? And I said, I'm a writer. And he said, and he explained to me that it's really the same thing. Okay, so like if you think about the word photography, like it's basically writing with light, yes. So it's the exact same thing. And I approach, a photograph the same way that I would with a poem or a story or an essay. It's about the story, the composition. You have to know what to put in and what to leave out. So when people see it's all story. And so that's how I ended up being a photographer. And then people were like, yeah, can I buy this? And the next thing you know, I had a second career.
You have oh, wow. What you were just describing about photography and writing. I was just describing it to a photographer friend of mine the other day. I've had this theory now for, I don't know, 20 years, 25 years. That, of course, like a language, I'm not a neuroscientist, but I know language is basically the Broca region of the brain. And vision is the occipital lobe in the back. And I've always had this theory, especially with imagist poets, that there is some sort of connection where, like if you're writing, say, a term paper, you're very much in the, writing, language, word, verbal part of your brain. Obviously,
region of the brain.
When you're writing poetry, especially if it's imagist, you're basically taking photographs with words. And I think there's maybe even a neural connection between, say, the occipital lobe or whatever, the part of your brain that would deal with, hey, that would be a great picture. Let's take it. And hey, I want to write here's a picture of a tree. Hey, I'm going to write about the tree. Because to me, imagist poetry, as I learned it through, learn about Ezra Pound was, and the way I've described it to people is where you have a topic. Maybe it's youth. I'm writing a poem about my childhood. Nowhere in the poem do I really say, okay, I'm writing a poem about my childhood and this is how it went and blah, blah, blah. It's more like each line or stanza or verse is an image. And then the images collected together create a vision. And you go, oh, he's talking about his childhood. Or something.
That's interesting.
Like that. I don't know. I don't know how to.
That would make a really interesting dissertation.
Yeah, I man, if you knew what I owe in school money, I ain't no PhD. I'll be honest. When I graduated with my master's, Dr. Cohn was kind of working me toward a PhD, and I would have loved to have done it. But by the time I finished my MDiv, I was 42, and I remember saying to one of my profs, I think it was a baccalaureate graduation day. I said, I wish I had every paper I ever wrote going back to my first paper at community college to my final theology paper here that I turned in a week ago. And he goes, and what would you do with them? And I said, I would go out to the woods with a bottle of bourbon, build a campfire. I would just watch a burn.
Don't say you would burn your work.
And he said, I still have it on my software. And I told him I would definitely save 2 papers for writing samples. I don't have them now, but the 2, if I did turn in 2 writing samples for a PhD, one would be my historiography paper I wrote in Dr. Harris's historiography PhD seminar at Union. I did I don't know, that's about 55 pages. I can't remember, 55, 60 pages. It was on comparing and contrasting basically the IWW, the Wobblies, with the social gospel movement. And I had the Wobblies coming out on top. And that's when you know you're at a really good seminary, when you can like basically say that, hey, what these churches were doing was really good, but hey, what that communist labor union was doing was even better. And we're a community college professor in Minneapolis. I worked in the stacks at the library, and I put the books away. So I knew where things were at. And I found a little tiny book. This guy taught night school at a community college in Minneapolis. And he had written this little book about maybe 70 pages. And it was about how he had done labor history, and he had read interviews with old Wobblies and other, say, radical labor people. And they talk about how, they have their labor hall, and it was kind of like going to church because they had pews. They sang songs, right? They had their labor organizing songs, and speakers. And he said, for us, going to the labor hall on, say, Wednesday night was like going to church. And it was our spiritual sustenance came through the union. And he put a little book on that probably, it wasn't even, it wasn't published by Yale, I can tell you that. It was published in a very small publishing house. And I found it, and one of my friends who was doing a PhD says, look, you should write on that, because like the best papers are when you find like somebody who wrote some tiny little book that nobody's paid attention to, but they have a great idea, and then you flesh it out. And maybe even your prof is like, who's this guy he's writing about, or this person? And that was one. And the other one was I took 2 classes with Dr. Cohn. One was my intro to theology. And I did a paper comparing and contrasting the theological foundations of fundamentalism in the United States with J. Gresham Machen against Gustavo Gutierrez and Latin American liberation theology. But the paper I really wish I had was the one, he had a book he wrote called Martin Malcolm in America. And he had a class called Martin Malcolm in America. It's one of those classes where the guy who wrote the book is your professor. And we had a big talk one day in classes, a very small class, it was 16 students, about Martin and Malcolm's definition of revolution. And in the process of this discussion over a couple hours, we never really reached an end to it. So I decided that's what I would do my paper on. And he loved it. In fact, he told me his favorite thing was that I used Frantz Fanon. And he was like, you're familiar with Frantz Fanon? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, seriously? I go like, yeah. I was reading Frantz Fanon when I was a line cook, because he said, were you like a revolutionary line cook? I said, all line cooks are revolutionaries. We just have to live passive aggressively so no one knows. Like when I was in seminary, I was in some class, we were talking about passive aggressive behavior and toxic work environments or something like it. Somehow this came up. And I got out of class and I was talking with a friend of mine who now teaches at Williams College, Jackie Hidalgo. And I said, can you please explain what we were talking about? And she's trying to explain all this to me. And finally, I couldn't get it. And finally I said, wait a minute, passive aggressive behavior. I've been a cook for like 15, 20 years. That's how we cope. No wonder I don't understand it. You're trying to explain water to a fish. Fish don't know what water is. It's what they swim in. That's how you cook. You're in a toxic work environment, generally, and you have to be extremely passive aggressive, because usually you just want to throw like a chunk of beef or something at your boss's head. So kitchens can be brutal places. Some aren't, but sometimes they are. And that's why I was
never a cook, but I did wait tables back in the day. When I was in college, I worked at Chili's. I waited tables.
Ooh, you did Chili's. Oh, we have a rep here.
I loved it.
Our Chili's in Ocala. I've told young cooks, I don't cook anymore, but I tell them, look, go get a job at Chili's and work there at least 6 months. Try to do it a year. They go, why? And I said, because there's kind of a reputation in Ocala. If you can handle the Chili's on State Road 200, you can do anything.
Chili's was good to me, so I really liked it. Yeah, it was really good.
I wish that almost wish everybody has worked as a server or a cook or in that industry because there's a saying, maybe you know this, having been a server. I learned it from a server, was that the best servers in the world, or not best tippers, excuse me, best tippers in the world are doctors, lawyers, and such who make good money, who worked in the business because they understand. And the worst tippers in the world are doctors and lawyers and such who never worked in the business because they're tight. And I learned that from a server one time. I don't know how true it is.
My experience was that the best tippers were the people who were sitting alone because they would sort of chit chat with me. And by the time that and sometimes I'd sit down with them, especially if it was not busy, and talk. And, by the time they were ready to leave, we had already become kind of like friends. I'd been talking to them for a little while, and they'd give me a big tip that way. So like sometimes 100%, sometimes 200%. I remember the first time I got like a $30 tip on an $11 bill. I was just over the moon. So that would happen a lot. Usually it was guys, though. Usually it was.
That's where you were probably like, okay, I'm going to do my setups. Can you take my tables? I'm out of here. I made my money. I'm gone. Someone pull a double tomorrow for me. Yeah.
But you know what that did? That made me a really good tipper. So I'm a very good tipper. And I'm not a religious person anymore. I could talk about that in just a little bit, since we talked about religion some. And so that's how I make the month of December special, since I'm not celebrating the birth of Christ. I give 100% tips when I go to restaurants.
That is so cool. Especially right now with COVID, I still know a lot of people in the service industry, and I tell people all the time, like, you got to tip these people right now, because this year has been devastating.
It's been very difficult. It's been very difficult. Yes. I had one guy run after me, and he was so grateful, and I mean, he was almost in tears. It's like, I really, really needed this. But I try to get out of there before they notice it. So it's it's not for accolades for me. It's for them. When you were a server, was there still smoking in restaurants? Like, you had a smoking, non-smoking section? Oh, no. Okay. So this was, I was in college. So let me see. I graduated, so 97, 90, so like 1998, 1999. Oh, okay. Because earlier than that, still smoking sections in restaurants. I knew servers that told me smokers tip better than non-smokers, probably because they hang around and have that, after dinner smoke or something. And I actually knew a woman when I worked at Olive Garden. I was the stick boy at lunch at Olive Garden, which is like the seventh circle of hell. This is when I first was cooking, one of my first cooking jobs. And, because it's all, we need more sticks. We need more sticks. Make a pizza while you're at it. We need more sticks. Do your prep list. It's So what are sticks? I don't know what a stick boy is. The breadsticks. And at Olive Garden, they have the you can get like, what is it, all you can eat soup, salad, breadsticks. Okay, yes, of course I know. So the Women's Bridge Club from wherever comes in for lunch. There's like 8 on it. And that's what they order, and they just load up. And so you have all these tables like this, eating sticks and salad or sticks and soup. So they run you ragged on breadsticks. It is the seventh circle of hell to be the stick boy at Olive Garden, especially at lunch. And I knew a server there. She'd been a server a very long time. She was a lifer server, and she had asthma. She'd had it since a child and into adulthood, and she always worked smoking section. And I asked her once, I said, like, aren't you worried for your health? Like, you have asthma. She says, smokers tip better than non-smokers. I'm willing to risk it. And then I checked that out at a couple other restaurants with other servers, and they always told me the same thing, that smokers, you do better, all things being equal. And I thought, man, that's a rough life when you have asthma and you're choosing to work the smoking section to get that extra, whatever, maybe $10, $15. Yeah. And I'm not laughing at her plight. I'm just laughing because, that's totally unexpected that someone would do that. I had a friend that we wanted to make an underground documentary. We were going to call it Walking In. Like when you got an order coming in, and it was going to show the real world of chain cooking. And we were going to do it with secret cameras. We had it all figured out. It was the stuff we'd talk about at his apartment after pulling a double. We're sitting around 1 a.m. on our 3rd can of cheap beer. Man, we need to make a movie and let the world know how bad this really is. And we had one of the scenes we wanted to do was a cut scene where you have a server out at a really difficult table, and they're kind of like, hi, how can I help you? And blah, blah, blah. And then showing them when they come in the alley, and they're back there like, in the alley by like the drink, showing, son of a bitch, I'm ready to rip his head off. Blah, 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 and then like cut again, and they're back out there with like
there's your refill, sir. And then they come back and, with this back and forth thing. But yeah, that stuff you think of when you got nothing better to do. So we talk about going to Antarctica, and a couple other things that came to my mind was I really want to talk about Louisville, and I really want to talk about COVID, but I also I
don't want to talk about Louisville though. Is that okay?
Okay, no, that's more than okay. No, that's fine. I understand. So I understand. And that's because I went to so many rallies, but no, I completely.
I want to talk about Louisville, but I don't want to talk about Louisville today.
I understand.
In fact, so my book Worn is actually a collection of Black love poems that all feature clothing in some way. And one of the reasons that I wrote Worn is because I was having a hard time as a reader finding books about the Black experience that were not rooted in trauma. And of course, I think everybody should tell the story that they have to tell, but it's difficult to like now I'm having a I don't want to say the F word. I was going to say I'm having a great effing time.
You can say that on the show. You can say that.
Now I'm having a great fucking time, right? And I want to talk about something that's going to make me cry. So that was one of the reasons, and I think that's one of the good things about the collection is that it's not. I don't want to use the word triggering, but it's not triggering. That word tends to be overused right now, but it's not. It's not about slavery. It's not about. There is one poem in there that's about race, but it's more about the love that I have for my uncle, that particular poem. It actually opens the collection. So that's why I don't want to talk about that right now. I love to talk about these things, but I just have to be in the space for it. And I've been limiting what I read. I read a little bit today and I just went there and I was not feeling happy and I knew I had to come in here and be happy. So that's a conversation for another time, if that's okay with you.
We'll treat this podcast like the Sabbath. And when I say that, I had never been to like a Shabbat meal. And I visited with a friend of mine I knew online in Nashville, spent the night at her place. Now back up in Williamsburg, but she was in Nashville. She's a activist there. She says, come and we'll have a Shabbat meal Friday night. And she was telling me I was on kind of having a Zoom get together with some of her friends for Shabbat. And she was explaining about how like during Shabbat, it's always about good things. Like you forget all the troubles of the world, your personal problems, it's really all about having a good meal and celebrating together. Basically.
Yes.
So this is
I think you need some days like Oh yes. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I think you just need that. You need some days like that.
I need more like that. I was at the gym today. My pulse rate has been through the ceiling at workouts, and I was talking with one of the trainers today, and I said, Jesus, dude, man, I hope when that Widowmaker hits me, it's quick. And he said, he figured a few things into it, but he says, dude, I know you're watching the news all the time. He says, the stress is probably like you. So just don't do that for a while. So you don't have a heart attack in the middle of the studio and we get shut down because somebody says, you should have let him off the treadmill. You shouldn't have let him run right then. You knew he was going to die. I don't want you like going doing a face plant on the treadmill and shooting off the treadmill, and by the time you hit the rower, you're dead. Like, okay,
I tend to like put my trauma in like a box, like an hour a day, reading or watching the news and or discussing it with loved ones. And then also, I tend to be with my and I say this respectfully, with my non-Black friends. Especially my neighbors, I am the person that they are asking a lot of questions. Like I want to say, I'm trying to think if my neighbor would see this. I don't want to be disrespectful and repeat her question, but I'm getting questions like, why do you want to take down the Confederate statues? And what is lynching?
Okay, yeah. I would have said, you get it in anybody, and I would have asked, I want to know what you think about it, but I hear what you're saying. Yeah, you become the specialist. Let's go talk to the Black person and see what they think. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I hear you.
But I think also, like, I don't know what to do outside of what I'm doing. I mean, I'm an educator, of course. I use all my platforms to educate. I am willing to talk to people who have questions. I'm a contributing member to Black Lives Matter and a lot of other. The Innocence Project is one of my favorite charities too. So I'm giving a lot. Like, I don't know. I don't know what else we can do. I can do to kill this racism beast, to kill this police. I was going to say police brutality, but it's more than that. It's police murder. And that also is part of the reason why sometimes I just have to go, I need a break, because I don't know what else to do. Besides just go to bed.
There's times for a heightened state of awareness is what we call it in the military. And the thing is, when you're like that, like, you can't do it forever. You can't. You got like that. You have to be able to, like I was saying, like you see, like in the movie Platoon with Vietnam, they go out on patrol and it's eyes and ears open, and you are heightened state of awareness, and you're out there. But then when you came back to the fire base, it was like break open a beer and put on some music, and you just kind of like bring it down, and you don't worry about what's happening out there, because it's too much to do that all the time. And I know when I was a chaplain, I was a hospital chaplain at two hospitals, and I had a saying. I did a lot of palliative care, ER, ICU. Hospice, that kind of thing. And I told a nurse once, I could do 4 deaths a day and didn't need a drink. If I had 5, there was actually a bar, but I finished seminary in Louisville at Louisville Presbyterian. When I was doing my chaplaincy there was actually a bar between the school and the hospital I worked at, maybe 10-minute drive. And the bartender that worked at night knew me, and because me and some of the guys used to come out and watch football there on a weekend. We'd be in shorts and a t-shirt, whatever. But if he saw me come in my suit on, say, a Wednesday night, he'd have a bourbon neat up on the bar for me. And he knew I was probably didn't want to talk. Just wanted to, sip a bourbon for 15, 20 minutes, watch a little sports on TV, and then, head home. So, yeah, you just can't carry whatever it is. You just can't carry it too long.
Too long and not all the time. Yeah.
You find I've noticed myself now in writing. I really didn't write for a long time. Academic writing kind of killed me for poetry. And just recently I wrote some stuff because I was a featured reader on a Zoom reading, and my friends like the theme of the reading was coming home again or something like that. So he's like, well, you're going to be the featured reader because you just went on a 6-day road trip, so you are a natural. I assume you have written something. And so I was like, okay, I just got a kick in the butt. So what I ended up writing were 3 poems I posted on the site. Departure, Antipode, and The Return. So the idea is the heroic quest, there and back. And so I noticed when I wrote them, all 3, I like to think they were good because I noticed when I was done writing them, I had a very relaxed feeling. Almost like the end of the workday.
Writing does that.
I got it out.
Writing does that too. Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
For something.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're kind of like
when I write anything, I'm a big journaler too. So since I was about 20 years old, I've written in my journal every day at least 3 pages longhand, usually somewhere around 6 or 10. Yeah, and that's just life changing.
Do you find a difference? Most of my stuff, actually, see, this is what I really love to talk about. I was telling Mitch, I could turn this into a poetry podcast in a few poets. I don't care who they are. They could be a Nobel Prize winner, or they could be somebody who works at McDonald's and, goes to and no one will ever see their stuff. I have a theory that the greatest poet in the world works at McDonald's and no one will ever know. Because they might do a reading somewhere, some open mic, but they'll never. No one's going to ever discover them. It's like the movie Slumdog Millionaire. You know, how he was in Calcutta, and were it not for that show and the things he went through, he was like the smartest guy in the world, but he's at a garbage dump in Calcutta. I often think how much talent. I don't want to say talent.
Is unnoticed. Yeah.
There are geniuses among us that the person that's the cure for cancer might be working at a McDonald's.
Well, I can tell you that I hope that I discover or run across that poet who works at McDonald's, because that's one of the most rewarding things about being a poet and writer, is that I get to mentor other poets and writers. Let me tell you a really funny story, okay, about one of the mentees that I have. So I was on an airplane one time, and I was reading a book. You mentioned Gwendolyn Brooks earlier. I was reading one of her collections. And what always inspires me to write my own poetry is reading other people's poetry. And so I was writing poetry in this book, in Gwendolyn's book. I always write in my books.
Which collection was it, by the way?
I can't. So it's got the brown cover with black writing. It's like black.
No, that's not one I read.
I can see it. It's not a. I want to say it's a collected. I'll tell you. Well, I'm using my phone right now to have this interview, so I can't Google it. But I'll tell you later. Okay, I can see the cover. So anyway, after I get done writing this, I think it is her selected. I think it is. Okay. Anyway, so after I get done writing, I put the book in the back of the back seat, the little pocket in the back seat in front of me. And, I just forgot it. I just left, just like you leave your sunglasses or iPad on a plane or in a cab or something like that. And unfortunately, I forgot it. Someone found it, sold it on Amazon, and then someone else bought it and saw my work inside and had my name and everything and Googled me and wrote to me to say, hey, I'm the one who got your book and you wrote this poem. And I didn't even remember writing the poem. And so now she's a mentee of mine. So
did that kind of blow your mind that this person out of the blue, I found your book. You're great.
Just completely out of the blue. And she was like, you wrote in purple pen. And yeah. So that's really, really one of the rewarding things about being a poet, is that I get to mentor other poets.
When I have a line in an old poem, something about reading Steinbeck and Hemingway in laboratory thrift stores. It was when I really started writing, I was living in Arizona, and I was actually in Casa Grande. And as usual, it was a depression. It was a breakup. A woman dumped me, and so I was like, "Oh, I got nothing better to do in life. I guess I'll write about it." And
why did she dump you?
I'll be honest. What happened was, she was in college. She was doing very well in college, and I actually, this is back when I was working in fields, and we had worked at a Kmart together in Casa Grande, and we went out, about a year, maybe a little more than a year. Anyways, I was working in a convenience store on Friday night, and it's right at, when did beer stop selling? Maybe was it 2 a.m., 1 a.m.? Somebody's lined up, trying to get the last minute six-pack. She pulled up with two guys. I found out later they were frat boys from Arizona State. She pulled up in a Porsche with them, got out, reached over everyone and handed me a breakup letter and walked out. And I read it and I was just like, oh crap. And I had to keep selling all this beer and I want everybody to just go away. And she, and then it turned around like maybe 3 weeks later, maybe a month. She, the whole thing was how basically you're not going anywhere in life. And then about 3 weeks later, she gets a hold of me and says, I think I made a mistake.
Wow.
What she found out was the guy in the Porsche was a jerk. That's what she found out. And she wanted to get back together, and we didn't. I wouldn't do it. I ended up moving not long after that to a different part of the state. But, I will say her name was Tina, and I still remember her to this day. She's kind of the we actually had a really good relationship till then. And she, I always say, like, I don't know how it is with women. I've had guys tell me there's always this person. I think it works out whether you're gay, straight, whatever. But there's always this person when you were younger. You always say that's the one that got away, or that's the one that I wish I could go back in time and do this one little thing different because they They were great. You feel like you lost your soulmate. And I don't. We met now. Probably she'd be like, "Who the hell are you?" But I still actually.
You're not friends on Facebook?
No, I tried to find her.
No.
I do every once in a while just to see if she's around, because I may have found her a few years ago. I didn't do a friend request though. I remember her telling me she had an aunt or a great aunt. I don't know which. Had some old mining property or something in Wyoming, and she said she thought she was going to get it when her aunt died. She was like her favorite niece, and I asked her, "What do you want to do with it?" And she wanted to convert it into a like a little ski kind of place. And I actually, boy, it must have been 8-9 years ago. I went and looked up on Facebook. I did find a woman who was married in Wyoming, kind of fit the description. Married, I think that might have been her. I ended up not sending her a friend request because she was married. We didn't have any friends in common. So I figured for all she knew, she'd be like, "We don't have any friends in common. Here's this guy." She looked a lot different. We've aged over the years. I mean, I'm 57. She was maybe a year younger than me.
Are you 57? Yeah.
I am 57. I turned 57 during the road trip. Yeah,
Happy birthday.
Well, thank you. And you. I saw your birthday recently. But I did write some poems about her. They actually were the worst ones I ever wrote. The worst one is called, I have a poem, I haven't read it in forever. It's called Love Died Today. And it is the sappiest, worst poem. It is so bad, it's good. Every once in a while, I will pull it out in Gainesville with my poet friends that have known me a long time. And I'll read it. And it's so bad, it's good. It's almost like a joke when I read it. I
like the title.
I'm due to read it again one of these days.
Totally read the title.
I'm not even gonna read it on this podcast. It's terrible. But
I don't have any exes who I want to go back to. Like there's not anybody who I thought was like the one who got away. I don't want to go back to any of my exes. But I did. So this collection, A Proper Lover, is about.
Did you take the photo? Or is that a photo?
I did not take.
Was that a drawing?
So I did not take this. I think it's a painting.
Oh, okay.
The publisher sent me.
It caught my eye.
Oh no. There's nothing. A lot of people like the cover, and it feels good. So this is a collection. So it's called A Proper Lover because it is one woman's journey to find and become a proper lover in light of what's been done to her. And so these are like my X stories, this collection is so I feel you on writing poems about those breakups, and I'd love to read some.
I was about to say, please. We've probably got my roommate gets to sleep a little early, and so this is an evening show, and this isn't going to be like well, with Dr. Thomas, I think we went an hour and 50 minutes. Our record is 2 hours on a podcast. This will not be like that. Because I'm waiting to see a text in a few minutes on my phone saying, "Can you turn it down?" Which is cool. I respect that. So if you want to take us out with the next 10-15 minutes with nothing but poetry, I would love it.
Okay, so I had prepared to read for you 2 from each collection.
Okay.
And then a couple are longish.
Okay. Take your time, whatever you want to do.
Okay, so we were talking about birthdays. So let me read to you one of my favorite ones called September 19th. Okay. Which is my birthday.
Right. We're just a few days. Today's the 24th, right?
Yes. So just a few days behind.
Yes.
Okay. September 19th. So there's a quote here, like the word is in quotes, so I'm going to do that.
Okay.
All right. So sometimes it's hard because there's a way to sometimes you read a poem when it's on the page, you understand certain things about it that don't necessarily come across when you're reading it. You know what I mean? So I'll try it. Okay, September 19th. The man I love bought me nothing for my birthday. He said he has no money. Though he smokes cigarettes, smokes weed, stops daily at Dunkin' Donuts, and has cable, he has no money.
That was it? Is that the poem?
That was the poem.
I love that. I like that. That's like, bam.
I know. I was like, so he's like, I don't have any money to get you anything. And I said, really? because you have a $60 a week weed habit, and you smoke cigarettes, and you've got all these things that you want for yourself. You just didn't buy me anything for my birthday because you don't love me enough. Really, that's what it boils down to. So that's what that poem is about.
Boom. I bet he did. Boy, did he have anything to say to that as a comeback? Because I don't think there's anything to say.
No, I didn't say anything, and I don't know if he has read this poem.
Okay.
And if he did, I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure he'll know that it's about him. Usually, though, I've had good luck with boyfriends. I never, was that girl who got people who broke her heart all the time. Like maybe disappointed me in some major way, but not like I just didn't get my heart broken a whole lot. Thank heaven.
You strike me.
Plus, I'm
not
not
to
the
get
type.
not to get overly personal,
Yeah.
but I had a professor named Dr. Chung. She was my meditation professor at Union, and I learned the phrase "a no bullshit woman" from her. She'd say, "I'm a no bullshit woman," and you strike me as a no bullshit woman, and also the kind of person that if someone was in a relationship with you and they screwed up and you let them go, they would be seriously bummed. Or they ought to be. Or they ought to be. I'll put it like that.
Yes.
Yeah, Dr. Cho say, I'm a no bullshit woman. And I'm like, all righty then,
Yeah. Plus, Gene, let me tell you, like, hurt does not feel good. I don't understand these people who are just like, loving to get their heart broken. They're always going after these people who are not going to love them and who don't, respect them. I'm not like that. I don't like getting my heart bludgeoned. So I always choose the person who loves me. Like, that was some advice my stepmom gave me. She said, listen, let me tell you something. Don't get with the man that you want. Get with the man that wants you.
Boom.
And I have found
Right. All right.
I have found that is excellent advice. Not that, of course, when I date somebody, I don't really love them. They only like me. But you know what I mean? It's like, hey, get somebody who is really devoted to you and interested in you. And then you don't have to worry about, her pulling up.
You're not the latest thing on my arm, kind of. Look, it's about me. It's about me. Look, I got me this really nice woman. I see what you're saying. Sure.
Exactly. And so that has worked for me. Yeah. Okay.
Got another poem?
I've got a lot more poems. Or a couple more, because I know we're running out of time.
Well,
okay.
We can take a little extra time. We got a little time.
Okay. Some of my poems have language. Okay. Is that okay?
Sure. You're allowed to cuss on here. Theoretically, all poems have language.
Okay.
Okay. No. This is
you know what I mean.
I was a line cook for 20 years. Okay. I was in the Army for 3, and I made it through grad school. So trust me, I am like a gold medal cusser. Though I do know people better than me. So feel free. Let it go.
Gold medal cusser. Write that
gold
down.
medal. I should put that on my Facebook profile.
Yeah, you totally should. I love your Facebook, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. So this one is called You Wet Them. And what you need to know for this poem is that, how, like, are you a coffee drinker?
I am. Some, yes.
Okay. So you know how if you drink a lot of coffee and you don't drink a lot of water, your urine will sometimes smell like coffee?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So that's what you need to know for this poem, okay? And it goes, You wet them. There's always coffee available at 4:00 in the morning, be it at a gas station, a truck stop, or at your cruel and unusual mother's. Something's always brewing. And you always stop to have a cup, to have a cigarette, and to wash your dick in the sink with those brown paper towels that can chafe if you don't wet them. But you do wet them, don't you? Wet them and cover up their scents with cigarettes, soap, and coffee. That way, when you come home and give me a quick kiss on the lips, I can say you taste like cigarettes. And that way, when you pee as I stand there brushing my teeth, I can say you smell like coffee.
Bam. You know what I love about that is it's real. You know what I mean? That's it's earthy, I guess is the word. You know what I mean? It's so many people think poetry is supposed to be this ethereal, I don't know, dandelions and daffodils and out there in space, or you know what I mean? And nice. It's supposed to be nice. And I really like earthy, like that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you know the poet that I thought of when you read that, actually? And you're going to be shocked. Charles Bukowski. It's got that
So
that rawness kind of a thing,
I
you know.
love Charles Bukowski.
Oh,
Yes,
okay,
yes,
because I didn't
yes.
know. I thought you were going to
And
say I've never been compared to Charles Bukowski, but it has that
I
feel.
have been compared. Yeah.
Oh, great.
And also, what a lot of critics say about my work is that it is accessible. A lot of people say that it's poetry for non-poets. And for people who say, like, my favorite compliment to get is when people say, I usually don't like poetry, but I like yours. And so,
Oh, yeah,
yeah. I like
yeah.
that. So, my stuff is, I'm sorry, my earbuds are coming out. So, my stuff is accessible.
Okay,
Okay.
got another one.
Here's another honest, also very, very honest. My work is I tell the truth.
All right.
Okay. So this one is called Insurance. And before I read insurance to you, let me just ask you if you do you know what? Okay, so remember this is language, and we're talking like adults here, right? So I can be a little okay. So you know what period panties are, Gene?
I think would that be like the ones that have got a spot or two, and you just use them on
Yeah.
head days? This is something. I'm a guy, so you know what I'm saying. But did I get that right?
You got it
Okay.
absolutely right.
All right.
You got it absolutely right. And so, what some women do, including myself, is when we are going out with a man who we really like and we don't want to sleep with him yet, we wear period panties to ensure that we don't take our clothes off. So that's what you.
I got
I can't
you.
believe I just said that.
That's kind of like up there when your
Okay.
mom tells you to wear clean underwear every day because you might get in a traffic wreck.
Exactly. So this is the opposite. So this is wear ugly underwear so that you don't get effed.
You just actually, and I learned something. I learned a lot of things on this podcast, but this is the 13th podcast I think I've done. I could probably do 500 podcasts, and I've learned what period panties are. I might be the only guy in town that knows that. I don't know. That's amazing.
So you wear them for insurance. So that's why this is called insurance. I once knew a man who met me and liked me and Googled me and read everything on my blog, even bought the books I'd written I was reading, even looked up the epigrams in the epigrams authors' biographies. We meet at the only embassy suites with covered parking. It's the only time I've ever put my ring in my ashtray. The only time I've ever worn period panties. So again, this is about, someone I met. I was married, obviously. But I had, my husband was not interested at all in my work. He was not interested in poetry. And so when I met someone who was so interested in me and my work, that he read everything that I had written, and even the books that I said I was writing, he looked those up, and that was so moving to me that I was like, yeah, I'll come meet you. It just has to be in a place with nobody will see my car. So yeah. That's the kind of stuff that's in a proper lover. So again, it's one woman's journey, and it follows her from girlhood and seeing her mother be a woman, seeing her mother teaching her sexuality essentially, and then dating through college, and then after, and then getting married, and then also having some infidelities during marriage, but then also coming back to being married and being happy. So this is one woman's journey.
So it's kind of a cycles of life book.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes. Wow. So this one is, I told you it's about my girlhood in Detroit. This one, I have to be honest and say, is sad. But you know what? I already said I don't feel like being sad. So maybe I should just not even read anything from this.
Oh, yeah, we'll do it another time. Because I'm you're a traveler, and so I'm sure you're gonna be back on here again because there's something I wanted to tell you. You were talking about. Have you ever been to Nepal yet? The Himalayas.
Been to Nepal.
My dream is to go to Bhutan.
The Himalayas in India.
I want to go to Bhutan really bad, but I have a friend, and he actually was following my road trip. He is a Sherpa, and he runs an expedition in Nepal. His name is Pasang, Pasang Sherpa. He's I got a sirdar, which is a head Sherpa, like being the chef in the kitchen. You're not just a cook; you're a chef. In that case, you're a sirdar. It's a Sirdar. That's how it's spelled. Anyways, he's a sirdar, and he's a friend of mine on Facebook. We friended a couple years ago, and I've turned a few people onto him. If you ever want to go to Nepal, just search him on my friends list, Pasang Sherpa.
Okay.
I'm sure he'll friend you. He actually was following my road trip. Like, it was so funny. He commented when I climbed Mount Elbert in Colorado. For me, that was a big deal. 14,000 feet. It was a big deal. This guy's been up Everest probably 3-4 times, But he's like, I'm going on my video, but this is really cool, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, congratulations. What a great feel. What a great view. And I'm thinking, dude, man, you're like a head Sherpa in the Himalayas, man. Like, I want to meet him one day, because I was so, it was just really cool that a guy like him would be into what I was doing. Because, I mean, it was only 14,400 feet. I mean, I don't know what base camp is. I think base camp at Everest is higher than that. So it was sort of, he seems like a really nice guy. So I'll hook you guys up on Facebook or something.
Okay, why did that poem remind you of that guy? What made
No, actually, I was thinking when we were back talking about Antarctica and traveling, and it stuck in my mind. I want to make sure that I mentioned him to you.
You're a traveler, you'll come back. Okay,
but then you talk about another reading. But yeah, if you want to come on a night when you want to be, the old depressing, I want to gouge my eyes out poetry kind of stuff. I know most people say they write best when they're depressed. I told that to someone recently. I said, I said I'm kind of an art snob in the sense that like we have the Fine Arts for Ocala art show and a lot of landscapes, this and that, and that's cool. But I was telling this person, I said, man, don't, like I said, she's a photographer here, and I said, don't be like those people. I mean, make your money, but because I look, poets know a secret that photographers don't, and these painters and these shows. She's like, what's that? And I said, poets know they write best when they're bummed. I said, that's why poets can't sell nothing, because if you make poetry, like my poetry, if you made prints of it and sold it at FAFO, no one would buy anything, because they would be like, this is the most depressing print I ever saw in my life. Why am I going to spend $50 to buy your print, Not all my stuff is that way, but some of it is,
Okay, so I'll go ahead and read one. I don't want to hate on this collection, so I'll read one that's not that sad. Okay, that's not that sad. All right, so this one is called Easter Ham. Okay, and it's written in couplets. When I stopped speaking to my mother, my brother stopped speaking to me. So my sister-in-law had to stop speaking to me, so my husband stopped speaking to her. My in-laws, out of respect for me, stopped speaking to my brother, and my aunt, in love with my brother's kids, stopped speaking to me and my husband. My nephews and niece keep asking for me on days of their recitals. I used to send cards, but got them back unopened and X'd in red. At Christmas and Easter, there's only one ham, 2 sides, plus me and my husband. His parents might come if I'm in the mood, and we are on speaking terms.
Wow.
And maybe one more? Yeah.
One more.
Do you have family drama too sometimes at Thanksgiving and Christmas, and some people are there because
not now, but used to when my stepmom came into my life when I was about 17. So you just imagine how that all worked out. You're after my mom. And so I had kind of the evil step family that I was the outcast. And that's why I remember I told the story in the podcast the other day that I remember when I showed my dad my acceptance letter to Union. And he looks at it. He never went to college or anything. And he's almost like shaking me in the letter. He looks at me like, what does this mean? And I said, it means you can tell the step family that your professional college student's son, that they use that phrase to, give you crap. Just tell them that I'm going to the Ivy League for grad school, and tell them to sit their ass, okay? And he's like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to tell him that. It was because he took a lot of. I was the ne'er-do-well of the family, basically. And I had one step. He's actually, I'm his uncle, but he was a year younger. We had a big fight many years ago, and he won, and he said he won't call me uncle until I can beat him up, and we're both too old and broke down to even think about that. So, and he still would kick my butt. He's a big dude, but he was always back home here in Ocala, and we would sit down when I'd come home to visit from school and get in these discussions about who really was the bigger outcast in the family. And I said, well, it's like, yeah, but I'm the one that has to live here and deal with it all. And we would just have the best discussions about who was despised more in the family. basically, is what we would do. Great guy. He just moved back here. I think he's in Orlando now. I haven't seen him in years. But yeah, that was I went through some definite family bullshit.
So many people do. And there's a lot of not talking, cutting this person off, telling everybody else that you have an issue with them instead of telling that person, being invited, not being invited, just all that soup of stuff. So that's where that poem. And then it's like, there are alliances, right? So if you're very close with, let's just say me, and then someone hurts me, then, what do you look like going and being best buddies with them? So you need to, and so that's what I was trying to touch on with Easter Ham. Yeah. So, so those are all things about my family, my upbringing, the abuse, the trauma, and some really deep, dark stuff that we won't get into right now, but that's the lighter side of it.
It reminds me of a lyric from, I want to say Dan Fogelberg, but maybe it was Kenny Loggins. I don't know. It was some guy in the 70s. Where there's I can't remember the name of the song, but it's talking about this couple gets a divorce or they separate, and there's and talk about how it gets confusing in relationships, and the line is something like it goes, some of them her friends, some of them his friends, some of them understand. Of that whole exactly. Where do you stand and all of that
exactly.
And I'm gonna have to look it up now on YouTube because this is gonna bother me all night.
Exactly. And I have to look up that Gwendolyn Brooks collection for you because that's bothering me too.
Well,
and I'm
the
like,
way I mentioned
it
about laboratory thrift stores was that at that time, basically I wasn't making a lot of money, and I go to the thrift store and I would buy books because I could get them for a quarter, 50 cents, a buck. And so kind of my reading list was what I could find. And the way I discovered Gwendolyn Brooks was her book was in the Salvation Army. And so I got it. I heard her name before. And this is like maybe early 20s. And I dropped out of high school, got my GED. And so I read it and I was like, wow, this person's really good. And one other book, probably the best book of poetry maybe I ever have read. It was a collection. And I found it in a thrift store in Arizona. And I would love to find this. I'm going to get on Amazon and find a used copy. I got to. It was a collection. It was probably about that thick, a few hundred pages. It was poetry from Africa. Specifically, Woye Sawinka was huge. And that's the one thing I do remember. A lot of poets from South Africa, Nigeria, a number of countries. But mostly, I think it was Nigeria and South Africa. And I remember reading that. I was, like I say, maybe 23, 24. And there was just so much good stuff in there. And I remember what I liked about it. Well, one, I thought I was really smart because I was like, man, I'm reading these guys in Africa. Like, this isn't like, like everybody knows who Emily Dickinson is. But also there was, it was just such a different perspective. Right. And a lot of it was very anti-colonial, post-colonial. It was freedom poetry. You know what I mean? There was it had a fire to it, even though not all of it was that way. Some was kind of like a poem about clothes. It wasn't all dramatic. Sure. Down with apartheid. Some of it was about my grandma's cooking, right?
Exactly.
So different, and it helped me to see that, like, the canon, so to speak, is there's so much more there. Like when I was teaching school, I was real big about music in my class. And I remember one day I introduced my students to Yvette Chaka Chaka and Miriam Makeba. I think that's who it was. and the kids are all like, who are these people? And I said, look, man, I mean, Beyonce is cool and all, but you do understand it's a giant industry that business is making you like Beyonce. These artists, they're from Africa, or I introduced them to a lot of Afro pop because I love Fela because I drum, and they'd never heard this stuff. They didn't know it existed. In fact, one thing that kind of freaked me out one day was one of my students. She said, "Do they come to the United States to record?" And I said, "Well, yeah, sometimes I guess. I don't know." But I said, "I think Fela did all his recording in Nigeria, as far as I know." And they're like, "They have recording studios?" And I'm like, "Yes, there's recording studios in Africa. What are you talking about?" And it happened. This student was black too, and I was talking with her about it, and I said, "Well, of course they have recording studios." I said, and I stopped for a second. I'm teaching biology. I was a science teacher, but I am a history guy teaching science. Now you know why kids are all messed up. But I stopped everyone and I said, look, let me explain something. There's two things you need to know about Africa. I said, one is it is a bunch of countries, because you know how people do that.
Mm-hmm.
Germany,
People think
England,
Africa
France,
is a country.
Africa. Yeah, they'll name
Yeah,
10
they think
countries
Africa
and
is a
then the
country.
continent. Right.
Mm-hmm,
And I
mm-hmm,
tell them, look,
mm-hmm,
there's so many countries there, and it's all different.
mm-hmm,
I mean, if you go to Morocco, or I have a friend in Senegal I want to do a podcast with,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
known for years online. And I said, look, if you're in Senegal and you're in Mozambique, I mean, they're like farther apart than the United States is wide by a long shot. They're different
Mm-hmm.
cultures, you know, and different music and foods, all kinds of stuff. And I told him, I said, yeah, don't. I remember what blew her mind and a lot of the students is when I said, do you know? I said, I don't know if it is yet, but it will be at current growth rates. I said, what's the biggest city in the world? And so Tokyo. I go, yes, it has been for a long time, and Mexico City. I go, do you know that Lagos, Nigeria is on the verge of being the biggest city in the world? And they were like, no. And it was this whole, I don't know if it's just here in the US, I guess it's people, but with kids, it especially gets to me is how kids don't learn a world perspective. We're talking
At
these
all.
are 15-year-old
Zero.
kids. This isn't 6-year-old.
Zero.
Right.
Oh, honey,
I literally said to him, I said, do you think everybody in Africa lives in a mud hut? What do you? Yes. I said, and I came in the next day and showed them pictures of Cape Town and Johannesburg. I said, we live in Ocala. Our biggest building is like maybe 8 stories high. I go, look at these, like,
but you know, that's largely a United States problem. Other countries,
right.
their students are learning. They learn about world history, they learn about geography. You know, it's a joke around the world that Americans don't know geography. I know students who don't even know why we speak English or why the Revolutionary War was fought. It's not funny, but
and you're teaching college.
It's startling. No, not. I mean, yes, I teach college. Yes, not my students, but I've had students before. Yeah, my students. Not my students, but yeah, I know people who really have no idea about a lot of things. They think Africa is a country. They really do.
Yeah, and it's not. I can understand a 15-year-old doing that, but it's when I see even like statesmen and I don't know people that should know better. You know,
do you ever watch? Remember Jay Leno when he would do that jaywalking and he would ask people questions like. That show is, I mean, but that's, well, you know, I feel like I don't want to hate on Americans, but because that's not what this show is about. But yes, you'd be surprised by the things that we really, I'm part of them too, don't know, you know, about our world, about our government, about our country, etc.
It was my dad's favorite thing on TV for years was jaywalking. He would, if it came on.
People don't know who the vice president is. You know, it's mind blowing to me how you can. It seems like just from being in the world, some things would, you know, you'd pick up on. You know, like just from walking past a billboard or from overhearing people's conversation. But some people really do go to work, go home. Don't talk to very many people who are different from them, and just, you know, watch the same shows and live in a bubble, and that's just how they live.
Yeah, I'm going to wrap it up because it's a little later, and I wanted to go just for my roommate's sake. I really she gets up very early, but
I was really hoping to read something from Warren, but I guess we'll have to do that.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay.
She
so
can't hear you. She hears me. So if you're reading, you're not the issue at all. So please read.
Okay. So I will read 2 poems. I don't have a copy of Warren yet because it's not out yet, but I'll read from 2 journals where my poems from Warren are published, and this one actually won a poetry contest, 2020 annual poetry contest, 3rd place, Adrienne Christian. This is the 2020 issue of the Common Ground Review, and this poem is called Wedding Dress. Okay. So remember, this collection is all Black love stories that feature clothing. Okay, Wedding Dress.
So this is out of Warren. Originally?
Yes, this is out of Warren.
Okay,
yes. Yeah. So Warren, you know, comes out on the 1st of April in 2021. But you know, I published some of the poems that are in journals before it found a publisher. Okay. Okay. So, problem is I need to be blotted out. My family's DNA. My daddy, the gangster, his mother, the moron, my mother, the daughter pimper, her mother, the monster. When I finally met my mother's father and asked how many kids he had, he spit. What kind of dog go digging around for shit? My mother's mom was his coworker's wife, see. I asked my daddy if he was sure I was his firstborn, and he told me emphatically, I think so. I'm pretty sure you are. His daddy let him use his house to bring his women. Even on Christmas, yes, I distinctly remember one Christmas with young Auntie Deb smiling, unwrapping her shit while my stepmom sat on the basement steps crying in her eggnog. A few of Daddy's prettiest cousins he'd fucked, he'd admitted. And when I met Uncle Womack's fresh out of the halfway house son, he said, Come on, cuz, you want something to eat? He poured us beer and Cheetos onto a plastic plate. As we ate, he turned on a porno. I told him, no, take me home. I told my uncle and my dad. They asked, what were you wearing? Those jeans with the hole in the ass? This same uncle sold t-shirts at my half-sister's wedding that said, this ain't swag, I'm sick and sore, and dog is God spelled backwards. Half the Hendricks have what they call the sugar, long gone kidneys and toes, still making pies and drinking. Uncle Kevin gave my daddy a kidney. Daddy still drank and smoked in front of him. I chose the justice of the peace to get married because I know my people aren't worth their $25 a plate. I'd get $5 in a card from 8 of them. My Aunt Sally thought I was marrying rich because my fiance had a business card, or as she called it, a business card. She wears every piece of jewelry she owns every single day, all of it worth about $13. But for some reason, my man decides to marry me. He keeps looking at me and can't stop smiling. Do you solemnly swear you are not brother and sister? The judge asked that day in January. Both of us raised our hands. We solemnly swear. My new husband takes me home, and while he's spewing semen inside me, says, I want to give you a baby. But I'd already gone to my New Orleans aunties and gotten myself fixed to not have kids and not told them. Yes, I knew he really wanted to have a family with me. I also knew he didn't know what he was asking.
Boom. That's the kind of poem, like when you're at a reading and it's open mic and someone reads something like that you go, Lord, please do not let the MC call my name right now, because I got to follow that. Seriously.
Thank you.
And for me, that's the highest compliment I can give a poet, because I've been in that position where it's like,
thank you.
Oh my gosh, that's the greatest poem I ever heard in my life. And then they go,
thank you.
Next up is Gene. And you go, oh crap.
Gene, you're so funny. I'm so glad we had a chance to kick it today. Yeah, thank you for choosing me.
And so I'm gonna close up here, and
okay.
Let's see. What am I got to say my sponsors, even though we do put them on. And I never remember them right. I'm the worst. I'm the worst like promoter. I tell people, Mitch is the smart one. I was just the guy that drove around and didn't try to get busted with weed in the car or something. You know what I mean? It was, more or less. I would forget what state I was going to go. That's why I never went through Kansas. I went all around Kansas, because coming out of Colorado, if you have East Coast plates, you will get pulled over on the interstate. There's no question. They'll find something.
And you always had weed on you?
I didn't always, but the car did have a certain odor at times, and leaving Colorado, it definitely did. And I was like, I do not feel like sitting on the side of the road in Western Kansas with some guy, tearing apart my car. But Mitch is the smart one. But so let's see.
Hi, Mitch.
Who are the sponsors? Let's see, ScarlettGopherArt.com, who you can find on ScarlettGopher.art.com, but also she's on Redbubble, on Redbubble.com, which actually we are too on this show. You can buy merch from us now, Rucksack Revolution merch. And Mitch is like a promoter at all that's going on. But that's Scarlett Gopher Art, and we did a podcast with her. If you go back, it was maybe the second or third podcast. And
I'm looking for my pen to write it down, but I think it's fallen somewhere. I can't find it.
Scarlett Gopher, like the color.
She can give it to me. Okay.
Cofer, Cofer. She was a former Quiz Bowl student and class of Mitch when he was teaching in Georgia.
I'll
And
check it
she's
out.
an amazing person. And I met her through Mitch a few years ago. Did their wedding. She's married to a young Marine in North Carolina. I did their wedding going maybe 3 years ago now. It's been a little while.
Okay.
And there's that. And then there's, I think it's a community action in Auburn, Alabama with Warren Tidwell. And Warren is going to be on here next week. He doesn't know that yet, but he's about to find out. On the road trip, he's the guy that I hung out with the day in Alabama that we went to Selma and Montgomery and well, enough said, and this was when John Lewis and C.T. Vivian had just passed. It was not the day when Lewis was at Selma. That was a few days later. But when we were in Montgomery, they had a memorial by the Rosa Parks at the down there by the fountain in Montgomery, which I found out was not only where Rosa Parks was arrested. That was the old market in Montgomery. A gentleman there gave me a nice walking tour, and I learned a lot of things there. My striking memory of Montgomery is I had not realized. I knew Dexter Avenue Baptist Church was close to the Capitol. I knew that. It's a block away from the Capitol.
Oh, yeah?
Yes. Like literally.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
It's on a corner. There's Dexter Avenue, goes up to the Capitol. And so it's right here on this corner. Relatively nondescript church. Not really huge, not really small. And you go one block and you are at the steps to walk up to the front door of the state capitol. So like he was literally a block away from it. Wow. I don't know, there's something about that just really struck me. But so yeah, Warren was with me that day and kind of my host. And that is a organizing organization. That sounded really good. There you go. An organizing organization. It's an organizing organization.
Did you have a chance to list all your sponsors?
I do, and I haven't. I was looking for it on my phone. I couldn't find it. I'm just gonna have to write.
You can't find it.
I have. I have a big planning. This is for 2021, but I'm gonna write them all down on the top. I'm gonna have to do this. I've got to get organized. I don't know how I ever got a master's degree. I'm so disorganized.
Oh, I'm super organized. I'm like I can't function in clutter. I can't think in clutter.
Yeah. So Community Action in Auburn, Alabama, and it's a progressive action organization, and they are just doing all kinds of great stuff for empowering folks in Alabama, mostly out in rural Alabama, I believe. And also Dave's Delicious Delights. Dave was one of my podcasts. I used to say my podcast victims, but because I was like, I'm not the great podcaster. So,
I like that.
But yeah, David is, among other things, kind of runs a bakery out of his home up there in Selinsgrove. He's actually Mitch's best friend. And he sent me a picture of some cheesecake he made. And considering that cheesecake is one of my 4 basic food groups, I'm going to have to go back to Selinsgrove and get some cheesecake.
Oh, I love cheesecake too.
And a word out to his wife, who is she's basically the director of wellness at Susquehanna University. So she has a big load on her plate right now with COVID.
Okay.
I hope he's making her a lot of cheesecake, because I would be treating her like a queen right now, because she's got a lot going on, no question. And so it's been a pleasure to spend some time with you.
It's been such a pleasure.
And I will be finding your books. Are they available on Amazon or just through your site?
They're all available on Amazon through the publisher sites, on my site, everywhere. All the major places you can find them.
I'm gonna leave us with a quick poem, not one of mine, but on my business card. I have a business card. It's funny because I never take them anywhere. I forget I have them. So people say, "Do you have a business card?" I'm like, "I do. They're sitting on my desk at home, all 1,000 of them or something." But it's a minister's card. It's funny because most ministers have business cards that look very, almost like lawyers. They're very professional looking. Mine was I think the template from the company was something like yoga teacher or something. And on the back, I have my favorite haiku by I want to say Mizuta Mataside. I think it is. Lived in maybe the 1800s. And it's my favorite poem, probably. It's since my house burned down, I have a much better view of the rising moon.
I love that one. I know that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that haiku.
Okay.
So hey, we're gonna get out of here, and it's really
Thank
been a pleasure to
you.
meet you. And I'll
Thank you.
see you on
Thank you. Thank you.
Facebook.
Talk soon.
Yes. Bye
Okay.
bye.
See you later.
Bye
Have a
bye.
good one. Bye.
So hey, what'd you think of that? Tell me what more you guys and gals, ladies and gentlemen, males, females, and otherwise, and just everybody out there. Tell me, you can get a hold of me on Facebook, Gene Anderson. Let me know, who would you like to hear podcasted, because we'll find them. We'll find them. I mean, I'm not going to do a podcast with Donald Trump. Okay, forget that, because I like people that actually can, I don't know, speak clearly and whatever. No Nazis. I'm not interviewing any Nazis. I'm not interviewing Donald Trump. But yeah, or if not an individual, would you like to see and hear more poets, or community organizers like Mr. Tidwell, who you're gonna to meet soon, and maybe saw on my videos on the road trip. Just something to think about. Anyways, hey, good night. Be well, be blessed, and see you again. I got another podcast coming out in a few days. So take care. Be blessed. Bye-bye.